If you're thinking you'd like to date old money, well, you're going to have a serious problem, sweetheart. Because old money, it doesn't date, it selects. And the selection process, it began way before you even knew you were being evaluated. There is nothing casual here, ever. There is no swiping, no shooting your shot, as boys worried about paying their rent say. And there is definitely no putting yourself out there and seeing what happens, as people with low expectations from life like to word it. You see, the way it'll all turn out was largely determined before you stepped foot in the room. By your last name, your education, your posture, the way you hold a fork when you think nobody is watching. But they are always watching. When I say old money, I am not talking about someone who had a remarkable year or an even better Q1. I am talking about the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Astors. Families whose wealth is so old that it has quite literally calcified into culture, into values, codes, unspoken expectations that travel down through generations like good bone structure does. You can spot it a mile away. And they can see its absence on you, as clear as day. But you're wrong if you think the barrier is money. Money is almost beside the point, I swear. The barrier is fluency. Most people who try to enter this world fail not because they couldn't afford the room. They fail because they opened their mouth and the room knew everything it needed to know. There are rules. Nobody will hand them to you because the assumption, the very deliberate, very useful assumption, is that if you belong, you already know them. It's as natural as breathing. You don't know them yet, but by the time we're done, you will. Before we talk about what to wear or where to be seen, because quite frankly, those are the wrong questions, I need you to understand something most people learn too late and also too often, at great and considerable personal cost. You are not just dating a person. You are auditioning for a system, and not just any system. You are applying for a position within a multi-layered, deeply carved, and ultra-sophisticated network you probably did not even know existed. When you enter a relationship with someone from generational wealth, real generational wealth, the kind with its own legal infrastructure, its own family office, its own attorneys on retainer since before you were born, you are presenting yourself for consideration to an institution that has survived market crashes, world wars, and the occasional family scandal, precisely because it has always been extremely talented at identifying threats. You are a threat. Ah, yes. You see, old money runs on one of those guilty until proven innocent kind of energy. These families have watched fortunes dissolve because someone's son married the wrong woman. They have watched names dragged through newspapers. They have watched dynasties crack along the fault line of a single bad introduction. So they developed a system, slowly, over centuries. And they have no intention of dismantling it for your feelings. You are not just inheriting a partner. You are inheriting the trust structures, the philanthropic obligations, the summer houses, the family gatherings where everyone already knows their role and yours has not yet been assigned. There is a woman, and there will always be a woman, who married into one of these families and earns more than her husband, one who's also sharper than her husband. And yet, his family treats her like a guest, one who's been politely tolerated past the point of comfort, not because she failed, but because she arrived without the correct paperwork. The paperwork being a last name they recognized and a lineage they could place. That is not cruelty. That is information. The Gilded Age called women like her dollar princesses. American fortunes buying European titles. Both parties clear-eyed about the transaction, neither one pretending otherwise. The modern version is less legible. Nobody hands you a contract at the door. The terms are communicated through 100 small moments you won't recognize as tests until you have already been graded. They start them young. Cotillion classes before adolescence. Etiquette before it occurs to most children that behavior is a language. By the time you meet one of them across a dinner table, the training is invisible. That is the entire point. which means when they look at you, they are not asking whether you are a good person. They are asking whether you are fluent. Get fluent, sweetheart. Everything else is decoration. The first rule will cost you the most if you break it. Discretion over display. These families have spent generations building something that has nothing to do with a balance sheet, a name. And the name is either intact or it isn't. The right people have excellent memories and very long tables, and they talk to each other at both. So let me ask you something direct. How much of your life is currently visible to strangers? Your relationships, your conflicts, your grief, and your celebration. How much of it is packaged and distributed to people whose names you do not know or whose judgment you have confused for connection? Yes, I am saying what you think I am. How public are you about your life on social media? If the answer is most of it, you are broadcasting on a frequency this world does not receive. They will not try to tune in. They will simply note it and redirect their attention to someone who cannot be easily read. Visibility signals a need for audience, for validation, for external confirmation that you exist and matter. And someone who needs an audience cannot be trusted with a name that has survived 200 years, precisely because the people carrying it understood that not everything valuable should be visible. Privacy here is not modesty. It is self-containment as a practice. The difference between a life and a performance of a life. Go dark. Stop performing. Become someone who cannot be easily known. Because the moment you stop performing, you stop looking like someone who requires an audience. Rare things get attention. Quiet things get respect. Look around any room in this world. Find the person saying the least. The one whose expression gives you nothing, who laughs once and returns to stillness, who asks a single question and then actually listens while everyone else performs for the table. That is who everyone else in the room is trying to impress. Composure is not coldness. It is the most expensive thing in the room, and it costs nothing but discipline. You are not here tonight to be liked. You are here to be remembered correctly. The loudest person at the table is always the least powerful one. Or, as my dad used to say, keep an eye for the one who sings the loudest in the choir. Protect the name before it is yours to protect. Conduct yourself as though it already is. Embody the name before it is your last name. They notice everything, sweetheart. They simply never tell you what they saw, and you'll never meet them where you are. You have to go where they are. And where they are is not accidental. Every environment old money occupies was designed to function as a filter. The country club, the polo match, the charity gala, the art opening where nobody is actually looking at the art. These are not hobbies. They are social infrastructure, quietly doing their job since the 1880s, creating proximity between the right people and distance from everyone else, without a single posted sign. The sports are part of the architecture. Polo, golf, sailing, equestrian. None of these are activities you stumble into. Each requires access that begins early enough to look effortless by adulthood. If you are at the polo match, you probably belong there. Or you know someone who does. In this world, that is functionally the same thing. The old money approach to romance has always been the introduction, not the encounter. The introduction, a mutual connection who can vouch for you, answer the unspoken question of who you are before a single word is exchanged. That system never disappeared. It simply got more expensive. There are matchmaking services that charge 6 figures for a single introduction. Some charge $1 million. Some require NDAs before the first date, because an introduction here is a transfer of social credibility. When someone introduces you, they are lending you their reputation. That is not done lightly. So if you are not in these rooms, and most people are not, the question is not how to force your way in. The question is how to become someone worth introducing. Proximity is not fluency, darling. You can stand at the edge of every polo match in the Hamptons until you run out of summers. Without the internal work, you will remain exactly where you started. Visible, unintroduced, Noted and moved past. Get in the rooms, but know why you deserve to be there before you walk through the door. Everything you have been taught about making an impression is wrong. You are not trying to impress. Impressing is a performance, and performance signals insecurity. And insecurity signals that you have something to prove. Someone with something to prove cannot be trusted in rooms where the stakes are high. What you are signaling is restraint, the understanding that you have already arrived and therefore have nothing to announce, and most certainly nothing to prove. The brands they wear carry no logos. Loro Piana, Brunello Cucinelli. But more often than not, it's entirely bespoke. The quality is so apparent to the right eyes that announcing it would be, what shall we call it? Redundant. The logo is for people who need to be believed. Logos are for people who demand respect and don't have the luxury to simply command it. These people simply are bowed down to by the virtue of their energy. And yes, every room adjusts accordingly. Things like bold colors, screaming hardware, anything requiring a second glance to confirm its own value, that is insecurity made into textile. And it will be noted and categorized as such and later used as data. Everything is data, sweetheart. Everything. You can certainly buy the coat, but you can never buy the posture that makes the coat irrelevant. Composure is not a style choice. It is a practice. No loud entrance. No filling silence with noise because silence makes you uncomfortable. Silence is information. Let it work for you. Let it tell you everything you need to know. In a room full of performance, the person who is not trying is the most interesting thing present. The eye goes there inevitably. You want to be the lowest point in the room, the place everything eventually finds its way to. Old money conversation centers on culture, travel, ideas, philanthropy, never net worth. If you bring up someone's money at the table, you have disqualified yourself more efficiently than anything else you could have done that evening, including spilling the wine. Money is never the topic. Money is the context in which every topic exists. You show your value through what you know and how you think, through the question nobody else thought to ask, through the moment where everyone is talking and you are listening and your expression is doing nothing at all. And somehow you are the most present person at the table. Not what you wore, what you left behind when you walked out. Not to dazzle, to linger. At some point, someone is going to hand you a document. It will outline in precise, rather old and unemotional language exactly what you are entitled to and exactly what you are not. And it will tell you, more clearly than anything else, what category you currently occupy in this family's thinking. Not beloved. Asset adjacent with potential for reclassification. Your response will be the most important audition of the entire process. Most people flinch. They feel the implied insult, love requiring a liability clause, and push back emotionally, which is catastrophic, or sign with visible reluctance, which is almost as bad. Both responses say the same thing, that the wealth was part of the calculation. Was it? Be honest before you walk into that room, because they already know the answer and are simply watching to see whether you do. The fluent response is equanimity, actual equanimity, rooted in the understanding that a prenuptial agreement is responsible management of a complicated tool, nothing personal. A family that watches you handle this gracefully will file that information somewhere very useful to you. Beyond the document, there is a subtler version of this test happening at every dinner, every gathering, every conversation. They do not discuss money. That silence, the deliberate absence of money as a topic, is itself the topic. Money exists here the way a foundation exists, beneath everything, essential, invisible, never discussed at the table because discussing it would be like stopping a dinner party to comment on the floor. What you will discuss if you are fluent is everything else. Culture, travel, ideas, books that change the shape of something. These conversations are not small talk. They are the interview. Every opinion you offer, every reference you make or fail to make, that is the data they are collecting. Because in the end, that is what separates the people who belong from the people who are visiting. not what they have, how they hold it. These rules exist because most people cannot follow them. That is not a design flaw. That is the design. Every layer, the introductions, the discretion, the composure, the cotillion classes, the prenuptial agreements, every layer is a filter. And filters only work if something gets caught in them. What gets caught is performance, need, the hunger to be recognized, validated, admitted, the very human desire to be seen by people whose opinion of you feels like a verdict on your worth. Old money has no interest in your hunger. It has seen hunger before, wearing many faces, dressed in many expensive things that announce their own expense. It recognized the hunger immediately and waited with exquisite patience for it to reveal itself fully. It always does. What gets through the filter is equanimity, fluency. Someone who has done the internal work so thoroughly there is nothing left to prove. Someone who walked in already knowing their worth and therefore not requiring the room to confirm it. The thing that is not available for purchase, the thing no matchmaker at any price can hand you, is the stillness, the self-possession of someone who knows the selection process began before they walked in and is not remotely concerned because they have been ready for a long time. Become that person first, darling, in the privacy of your own life before you ever walk into one of these rooms. Because the filter does not care how long you studied for it. It only cares what you are made of when it finds you. And it will find you. It always does.